This is the Specialized Levo everyone should buy. It's a comp alloy model, so it's a load of workhorse stuff that's not going to break. It's got a big 700 watt-hour battery, but it's all packed into an aluminium frame, so you're not paying for carbon fibre on a bike that's already quite heavy, which is good, because this model is not quite brink enough. We better add some yellow, and for still less money than a carbon bike, you get a much better spec. So here's an RXF 38. There is a TTX Air. Let's get them on. Okay, there we go. So we've made it better. As you can see, an RXF 38 fork at the front. So a decent amount stiffer than the 36 that comes on the bike. And also better damping being the sort of top offering. So you've got high speed and low speed compression adjust at the top, rebound down the bottom. And with the Öhlins fork, you've got two externally adjustable air chambers. So you've got the main chamber and then the ramp up, which if you've not seen before, take a look at the video Matt did where he tore one of these apart along with a Fox. You'll see why it's better. So the ramp up chamber does away with volume spacers, and you can just do it with air instead. So it's infinitely adjustable, really good. That's the fork. The shock, we've got a TTX Air. This is the small air can version, they do two. On a bike like this Levo, which is a slightly more linear suspension design, a smaller air can means that it ramps up a little bit quicker, which is really nice. It's got such a supple off the top feel though, almost like a coil shock. It's absolutely mental. And the damping is pretty much identical to the fork. In fact, this is tuned for a Levo, which means it's going to be perfect, but the feel is identical to the fork, so it's going to be a really well balanced bike. That's the yellow stuff anyway. There's a lot else that makes this bike the perfect e-bike. Drivetrain is a SRAM GX Eagle. So you get the 12 speed, you get the 1052 range, all of the perfect bits, but you've got a mech that's going to stand up to a lot of beating. So there's a lot of metal on the mech as opposed to plastic or carbon. So a heavy e-bike like this that you might well crash on loam corners, you've got a mech that, well, is less likely to break and is cheaper if it does break. Brakes then, you've got SRAM Codes. These are the Code Rs. So the Code's the more powerful brake in the SRAM range. Really good. Big beefy caliper, big pistons, lots of pulling up power. They match it on this with a 220 front rotor and a 200mm rear, which is spot on. Basically all the braking you want. Interestingly, they don't shout about it much, but the centerline 220 rotor is actually 2mm thick, like the HS2s. Only it's not an HS2, it's a centerline. So that's really cool. The wheels are Specialized Roval, really good kind of workhorse wheels. They're not necessarily the fanciest thing in the world, but they've got basically everything you need. They're a nice wide rim, nice lot of engagements, and they're not the most expensive thing to replace when you slam it into the back of a landing. And then the Specialized tyres kind of round it out. These are the T compounds, so you've got T7 rear, T9 front. That refers to the softness of the rubber. Specialized tyres are actually really good now. They had a couple of years where they went off the rails, weren't brilliant, but now they're back on it and these are quite good tyres. I fitted Sensus grips to this. They're our favourite grips. These are the Meaty Paws, quite chunky, so your knuckles aren't quite so bent around. So you basically get less brake pump in your hands and your forearms, which is brilliant. And I guess that's kind of it, right? It's got a dropper post. So what do you think? Tell me what you do different. Interestingly, actually, this is a standard build that we do. Most stock bikes we can do an Öhlins edition of. This gentleman, actually, I'm about to put some different tyres onto his personal preference, what he uses on everything else. So there's always going to be something that makes a bike yours. So let me know what that is, and yeah, give me some ideas for the next one.